Welcome to Middlesex Moments, the radio show of Middlesex Community College. I'm Dr. Steve Minkler, the college's academic dean, and your host for these programs. Middlesex Moments comes to you from the radio studios of the Middlesex Community College Center for New Media, located on our main campus in Middletown. And joining me today are two very good friends of the college. Dick Wheeler and Marcella Trowbridge are co-founders of Artfarm, a nonprofit professional theater organization based in Middletown, and wonderful partners of the college. Welcome today, guys.
Thanks so much.
Marcella, tell us what's happening now with Artfarm. How are things going?
Oh, things are going well. For folks who aren't familiar with Artfarm, our mission is cultivating high-quality theater with a commitment to simple living, environmental sustainability, and social justice. And saying that, it's always been a tall order, but it's been important to us to commit to our priority values. And one of the things that's been really exciting really has been this partnership with Middlesex Community College. It's in our 12th year here, and we're in a production of Hamlet right now, this is a very exciting time. We're bringing this to the community, and Artfarm has several elements in terms of what we do. We have outreach in terms of community-based programs. We do a lot of residencies in schools around the state. We have an environmental education circus that tours. We recently had a project called Where Are We Now?, looking at race, class, pride, and inequity, which was a community-based project that performed recently. And this production of Hamlet is really kind of part of the flagship of what we do. Shakespeare in the Grove at Middlesex Community College is our most public event. And, it's exciting because we are able to bring people to the campus many of whom might not otherwise find their way here and discover that there's this magical grove behind the campus. We have all of the facilities that the campus can provide: parking, bathrooms, facilities for folks who have ambulatory issues. It's really a phenomenal campus in that way, but there's really this little hidden gem, which is what we have, called the Grove. And people can come and we can talk a little bit more about what they can do to enjoy Hamlet. Maybe you want to speak a little bit to that.
Oh, well, you got a pretty good start there. It's just, I am an adjunct here as well and teach some of the theater classes, so that is sort of how the relationship started, because I think I've been teaching here for about 12 or 13 years, and it is, really, I think it's been a great relationship both ways. I think it's gotten a lot of people onto the college campus that may not have visited, and it's provided a great, artistic home for Artfarm.
Right. And it's really great for the college to have you almost as artists in residence throughout the summer, but not just the summer, but throughout the whole year, because you are involved, as you said, in teaching classes here. And I think one of the things that's extraordinary about the Shakespeare in the Grove is just the natural amphitheater in that part of the campus, and to experience this in an outdoor setting is something it's entirely different from going to an interior indoor theater with all of the attributes of that.
And it's sort of a magical thing. It's interesting, Shakespeare, when these plays were written, people perceived the world a little differently in terms of the hierarchy of a spiritual life, nature, humanity. And so having these plays performed outdoors, it allows access to something that's a little more ethereal, in that you have access to the trees, the sky. People are sitting on the ground. So when those things are referenced to, as they are often in these plays, the audience is having a visceral experience.
So great. So we have to take a quick break, and after the break, more with Dick and Marcella and Artfarm and Shakespeare in the Grove, here from Middlesex Community College and Middlesex Moments. Welcome back to Middlesex Moments. Steve Minkler here from Middlesex Community College, together with Dick Wheeler and Marcella Trowbridge from Artfarm. Before the break, we were talking about Shakespeare in the Grove and the fact that we have this wonderful outdoor amphitheater where an audience can experience the beauty of Shakespeare and the production, and how the natural elements kind of come into play. Artfarm is pretty well known for bringing in other creative aspects to the production of theatrical works. That you used acrobats, you used puppetry, and maybe how does some of that get incorporated in productions like Hamlet?
Right. Well, I can answer that as the director. We do. I think we have developed a reputation for having a real physical style, but combined with, I think, a real respect and a kind of aggressive, work with the text and telling the story well. And that is why I think a lot of families come, and a lot of people bring their kids for their first experience of Shakespeare to see these Shakespeare in the Grove productions, because the story is really clear, it's very physical, and you can generally, regardless of your age, understand what's going on. And so many people have a block against Shakespeare, I think, because it's like, oh, I tried to read Othello in high school, and it was really, thick, and I couldn't understand anything. One of the things that we do is cut. And not change, but just trim it down. So Hamlet, if you did all of Hamlet, it would be about 4 or 4.5 hours long. And my goal when I started cutting this production was it's going to be under 2 hours, which means that we've really cut more than half of the play, which was not easy. And so we won't have any circus in this production, but we do have some puppetry, and there's certainly a lot of sword play, or of some great moments of sword. The play culminates with one of the epic sword fights of all time, and we have a terrific combat choreographer named David Chandler, who is a Tai Chi master, but he's also a martial arts and stage combat specialist, and he does some incredible work. So I think, even with a deep, dark play like Hamlet, we're able to kind of keep the physicality that people are used to, and because of the cut, it really, the story is really clear, and there's just not a lot of extra baggage. I mean, there's some things in cutting that probably some purists are going to go, oh, how could they have taken that line out? That's one of the most beautiful lines in the English language. But I think, it is worth it to make it accessible for a contemporary audience. We're just not used to sitting through 4 hours of theater and a lot of language that we don't understand. So, in terms of the cutting, my first priority was okay, how do we tell this story, and what is the story that we want to tell? So, what I started out with was the idea that Hamlet is about making choices and taking action when confronted with injustice. And for me, that was also a way in to where we are now as a society. And, and that kind of dawned on me right after the last election. And how do we make this relevant? Because that's, it's 400 years old, this stuff. What is amazing is that it has natural relevance, that these decisions that people are making, the actions they're taking, the thoughts, the feelings they're having are the same ones that we have today and that we deal with. So I tried to trim the play to the point where it's really telling that story about Hamlet realizing that a terrible wrong has been done, and that he is the one who has to make it right. But that's not going to be easy. And what is he going to do, and how is he going to do it, and when? And that's really what the play is about at the core.
Yes, all the choices we make every day in our lives, as you're suggesting, and it's just kind of wrapped in this mystical story in some ways. I mean, it's really about Hamlet avenging his father's death and how that plays out. And I'm always intrigued by the quality of the language. Like you said, it's difficult for those of us who may not have read Hamlet since college or high school to get beyond that. But there's something just so elevating about Shakespearean language, the Elizabethan language and how things were expressed in the English language. And you think of Shakespeare, you think of the King James Bible as being another example of that.
Sure.
So as you were saying, a lot of it is not just what's spoken, but how it is actually acted out and visually and viscerally demonstrated, as you were saying.
Well, it's interesting, Steve, because I feel like as a person who has dedicated much of my life's work and energy to this language, to Shakespeare, to creating work and bringing it to the community, part of what I've identified over the years, that part of my job is to take something like Shakespeare's text, and it's my job to, and all of the actors, it's our job to really understand what it is we're saying. Because if I don't understand what I'm saying, there's no way that you're going to understand what I'm saying. So it's my job to make sure that I'm very clear, not sort of get the gist, but that I'm very accurate. And if I don't know what it means, I'm going to use my resources to figure out what it means and then make decisions about what it means in tandem with the director.
Right, because it's not always clear. You sometimes have to make a choice. This is what I mean here. Could be interpreted this way, could be interpreted
but I have to make a choice. And then I feel, and this is again part of my as an actress and a theater artist, what I feel my personal calling in this work in part is I have to feel all of the challenging things, the love, the joy, the pain, the trauma, the sorrow, so that an audience then has the opportunity to also do that. It's a place to be, I think our job is to be a reflection of the human condition. And so while ideally, someone in the audience hasn't killed a king or had their father murdered, however, we do know loss. We do know death. We do know regret. We know sorrow. We know love. We know the pangs of to quote Hamlet, despised love, someone rejected love. These are things that we can relate to as human beings. And again, using this exquisite language. I will always feel so grateful to have Shakespeare's words to speak, because I was speaking with one of my children recently about vocabulary and what is the use of it. And it's not about being erudite or showing off your level of education, but there is something around being able to communicate more accurately your ideas and your feelings, and that is something that Shakespeare does so eloquently, is use the English language to communicate ideas and feelings. And so that's really what we're doing, and I think the storytelling is essential. And I think that when Dick cut the script, he didn't change the language. It's not adding language. It's just, getting to the bare bones of that story. And a lot of times, again, Hamlet, people will say, there are a lot of scholars, there's a lot of writing out there about this play. We'll talk about his procrastination. Why does he not act? And I think, Dick, you have chosen in this production to really take a different tack, to talk about action. I mean, it's pretty fast-paced. We aim not to lose audiences, be they Shakespeare scholars or 7-year-olds.
No, and I think that is a big part of the cut, is making it not a play about procrastination, but a play about action, and about choosing and taking action. And sometimes that action leads you up against a brick wall, which means you have to make a new choice. And you see Hamlet has the same goal throughout the play. Once his father has come to her, his father's ghost has come and said, "You need to revenge my death because I was killed by my brother, who then went on to marry my wife." Hamlet swears early in the play that he will do this, and then there's a series of obstacles that get in the way, and of course the king, his uncle, being a big one of them, that he gets onto it pretty quickly that Hamlet is trying to do this, so it becomes quite a match between the two of them, a match of wits and a match of strategy for basically who's going to kill who first. And so it quickly turns from this kind of depressed young man who is, dark and moody and not wanting to be part of anything, to this life and death, game between these, that's not really a game, but this life and death, strategic battle between these two powerful figures with this interesting supporting cast around them. And of course Hamlet's mother being a big factor, who is gone and married the person that killed his father. So it's complicated. It's it has some of the complications of family life. I mean, we all know that families aren't simple. Nobody's family is simple. Everybody's got a story in their family, right?
And when there's a death in the family, things can get incredibly complicated.
Absolutely.
And that hasn't changed either.
Well, this is terrific. And this is being performed now as our listeners are hearing this program.
Yeah.
Hamlet at Middlesex Community College. It's an Artfarm production produced in the Grove at Middlesex's campus in Middletown, running July 12th through 16th and the 19th through the 23rd, 8 o'clock each evening, outdoors. And for tickets, you can visit www.art-farm.org, or just show up the night of a performance.
You can.
And would be, enjoy a terrific evening. So a little bit more with Dick Wheeler and Marcella Trowbridge from Artfarm here at Middlesex Moments after the break. Welcome back to Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College. I'm Steve Minkler, here together with Dick Wheeler and Marcella Trowbridge from Artfarm. And we've been talking about Artfarm's production of Shakespeare's Hamlet, which is ongoing now at the Grove at Middlesex Community College, Before the break, we were talking about a lot of the interpretation that actors and directors and producers have to make, whether you're doing theater or a film, perhaps, and that you are channeling the intentions of the author, the words, and how they're presented. You're channeling the emotions, and you're also making it relevant to the audience and sort of explaining in some ways how that happens. And there must be some moments that simply are just inspirations to you. So, and how has some of that worked in your work throughout the years?
Well, I think as a director, you're always trying to find a new way to make the text relevant, especially when you're working with a classic text or a text that's familiar to quite a few people, like Hamlet. I mean, obviously one of the best-known pieces of literature in the English language. So we're always like, how can we make this relevant today? So for me, in this production, it is, like I said, finding that focus on the action and choices and trying to find contemporary resonances. People will find it's not a Elizabethan setting for the production. It feels contemporary, but a little out of joint, as Shakespeare says in there, that it is a contemporary world, but some people are carrying daggers. It's clearly like a contemporary royal family that might live in a palace that has housed the royal family for 1,000 years, so they're surrounded by history, but yet they're people living in the 21st century and living with everything that the 21st century brings. So I think that helps, to make the production come alive in this particular aspect. I've tried to find a lot of contemporary resonance, encouraging actors to make choices that are informed by where we're living now and the times that we're living now, and letting the actors explore some of that. And, one of the things that I've found over and over directing this is I'll come out of rehearsal and go, wow, working with a good playwright really makes the director's job easy.
Well, we have a skilled cast as well. We've been very fortunate over the years. We have some very talented actors that work with Artfarm, and we're centrally located here, and we pull people from different parts of the state. Typically, we try to stick with Connecticut actors, although sometimes we have folks from New York and other states. And that's also, I think, a real gift, because I am playing Hamlet this year. There's a very famous scene where Hamlet is with his mother in her closet, which is more like a bedroom, and working with that actress. Callie Bellew is the actress. Some union actors, equity actors in our company, and Callie is one of them. And that's like a scene that has, throughout the rehearsal process, grown, and throughout the performances, I'm sure will continue to grow, because we have a chemistry together. We trust each other, because it's also a very physical scene, and there's some violence in the scene. And to be able to work with actors that you can trust, that you're safe out there, even if, because it's live, anything can happen. Things can shift. In fact, it's different every single night. And to trust that someone is present with you, that they've done their work, they know their text backwards and forwards, and that they can just let go of that and be alive in the moment, that's a very exciting thing. It's a real privilege for me to be able to play this role.
Yeah. And how unusual is it for a woman to play the male lead in a play like this?
Well, we are switching the pants a bit, as it were. It used to be in Shakespeare's day that it was only men who played all of the roles, including the women's roles. So in terms of the long history, it's unusual. The first woman that is noted to have played Hamlet is Sarah Bernhardt, and there have been a handful over the years, but it's not regularly cast as a woman by any stretch. I sort of argued with Dick a little bit when we were in the process of, selecting this play and casting. Are you sure you want me to play Hamlet? Are you sure? And he said two things. He seemed to think he said I'm the best man for the job, and that you also said that you feel that women should have access to these roles. Yes. So it's a real gift. You can talk about interpretation.
Well, and I think I just in terms of having access to these roles, I mean, one of the things when you think of the great Shakespearean roles, like Hamlet or Othello or Macbeth or Richard III, they're mostly male roles with lots and lots of text. And when you think of the famous women's roles, Ophelia, Desdemona, Rosalind, and As You Like It, even those roles have much less text than you'll find in the male roles. You'll find a character like Hamlet in the original has something like 1,500 lines. I think the largest female role is Rosalind in As You Like It, and that is like 470 lines or something like that. So it's a third of the size. So, it's just an injustice that women can't get access to these really significant roles. So, I had no problem casting a woman as Hamlet.
Right. Well, because they do reflect the time that they were written in when it was more of a male-dominated society at the time, but also reflecting the history of England as it stood at that point.
I also think, this is just my opinion, but because men were playing the women's roles, it was the boys playing the women's roles, so they were not the seasoned actors in the company.
Sure.
That was so they were given less text.
Sure.
Makes sense.
But again, in terms of our company and how we work and interpretation, and me having the privilege of playing the lead in Hamlet, things like using the architecture. Our set designer, David Schultz, has built a beautiful throne, and Hamlet's relationship to the throne, when you come to see this show, as I'm sure many of you listeners will, I hope, Hamlet throws himself around on the throne. He jumps on the throne. He stands on the throne. He puts his feet up on the throne. He treats the throne very differently because of the circumstance that he's in, because of the fact that his father has been killed and now his uncle is sitting in that throne. I find that, again, and those are choices that came up in rehearsal, just me leaping up on it and suddenly going, oh, well, this is interesting. And it just starts to tell the story. The freedom that you have given, Dick, in the rehearsal process, giving us guidance, but allowing the exploration of how we work, that, again, I think ultimately helps the audience experience that storytelling.
Sure. Well, I think another neat thing about this partnership between Artfarm and Middlesex Community College is this summer, for the first time, we have Middlesex students who are earning college credit to be summer theater interns. And how's that working out?
That's great. We have 2 students who are doing the summer theater practicum, and one of them is serving as assistant director. So she is right at the heart of the production. I mean, she's on my right hand every rehearsal, every night. I think she's learning so much, and she's, communicating notes to the actors, working on the side with the actors and the puppeteers, and I think, and the other student is working more in the design and technical area. So she's spending a lot of time in the costume shop. She's working on the set, and in the run of the show, she's backstage as a dresser, getting costumes on and off people, and
getting props into people's hands
at
the right time.
So though it's just 2 of them, they have both found their way to the center of the production, and I think it has been a great learning experience for them, but also for Artfarm and for the production to have these 2 really motivated young people working at the heart of it has been really helpful. I hope we can keep that going in future summers.
And they were students of yours.
They both have taken classes with me, so I had a relationship with them already, which made it easier to kind of just deepen that and trust that they, you could take on this role. I've had you in class. I know what you can do.
Definitely.
You're going to be committed because, in theater, commitment is everything. You can't be flaky.
Because the audience will show up.
So it's actually, I think we can continue internships and things like that, because this is part of a new initiative in the state where students can take a theater studies pathway, beginning at Middlesex Community College and then transferring to a bachelor's program at one of the state universities, and working with groups like Artfarm and other visual and performing arts organizations in Middlesex County is a great way that students can get experience and work on that. And we're hoping to collaborate with Capital Community College in Hartford and the resources they have available, as well as Naugatuck Valley Community College in Waterbury. So it's an exciting time for students who might be interested in this field. So again, for our listeners, Artfarm's production of Hamlet is running right now at Middlesex Community College in the Grove, outdoors, 8 o'clock. And Dick, you have a schedule for us here with some special events that surround each of the performance days.
Well, yeah, I'll give you just a quick overview. Like tonight, the 12th, is the Pay What You Can preview. So it's a good, for anybody who finds the ticket price too much for them, come on the 12th. On Friday the 14th, which is our first Friday and kind of our big public opening, at 7, we have Ronnie Arbo and Noah Behrman performing a 45-minute set of what will be certainly unique. They're focusing on music about mortality because of Hamlet. And, he is a great jazz musician. She's kind of an American roots musician. They've never played together before. They're both musical icons in Middletown. So that, is at 7 o'clock before the Friday the 14th performance. Sunday the 16th is Family Day, so there'll be some activities for kids before the show. You can get your photo taken on the throne.
Can they jump on it, Marcella?
No, just me. Maybe Ophelia.
And there's special pricing for kids on that night. Wednesday the 19th is Middlesex Community College night, and possibly expanding that, I think, to Connecticut State College night. So anybody who goes to a Connecticut State College can get in for $5 if they're a student. And for faculty and staff, it's $15. So there's a Meet Your Greens event before the Thursday the 20th performance that Rockfall Foundation is sponsoring. Friday the 21st is Hamlet 2020, where it's just focusing on people in their 20s and getting people in their 20s to the production, and there'll be a special reception beforehand and special pricing. And I guess the last thing is on Saturday the 22nd, there's a post-show talk back with the cast and director. So people who are really interested in how this all happened can get a little backstage view after the show on the 22nd.
Terrific. Well, great. I really want to thank my guests, Dick Wheeler and Marcella Trowbridge from Artfarm, for being with us today on Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College. Thank you both for being with us.
Thanks for having us,
Yeah,
Steve.
thanks for having us.
And I think for our listeners, just a reminder that Middlesex Community College continues its registration for the fall semester. Our fall classes begin at the end of August. We have dates throughout the summer where you can come register for classes and programs like theater studies and others here at the college. And so we want to invite you to visit us here at our main campus in Middletown. You can visit us online at MxCC.edu. And also a reminder that we're moving our Meriden Center to Platt High School. So we're branding that MxCC at Platt. We'll be offering afternoon and evening courses at Platt High School for students who want to seek Middlesex Community College through the city of Meriden. It's an exciting partnership with the school system, and we're really happy to be launching that this fall. So we invite you to visit us, Middlesex, Meriden, or online, mxcc.edu. And again, for Middlesex Community College and Middlesex Moments, I'm Stephen Minkler. We'll see you next time.